Welcome back to math class, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about the distributive property. So we've got a couple of vocabulary terms again. The distributive property is kind of a sharing property. It's a way that we can get rid of parentheses a lot of times in expressions, and that's something that we need to do to be able to simplify our expressions. When we do our distributive property, it will create an equivalent expression. It'll mean the exact same thing as what we had earlier, but it will maybe look a little bit different. And then standard form, I'm not really too worried about that at this point. It's just similar to what we already did in the last lesson. When we have variables and numbers, we want to put the variables first. And I don't think that I said that specifically in my last video, but variables go first and then constants go second. If you have more than one kind of variable, they're going to be in there alphabetically. So here's kind of a visual to help you to understand the distributive property. Here is my expression. 2, and then the inside of the parentheses, I've got x plus 3. So 2 times x plus 3. But because the 2 is on the outside, it's saying I've got 2 of those x plus 3 things. These pictures that I have here, these are called algebra tiles. So this is saying that I have, this is an x plus 3 right here. The x tiles in algebra tiles are these kind of longer ones. And then the ones are, I know it's not quite the right scale, but these are supposed to be squares. So if I've got one of those x plus 3s, and then I get another one of those, so here's that first x plus 3, and then here's a second x plus 3. That's like saying I've got 2 of those x plus 3s. Well, I could simplify that by putting my x's together and putting my constants, my regular numbers, those little squares, together. So instead of having this as 2 separate sets of x plus 3, I could have my 2 x's, and then I could have 1, 2, 3, and then another 1, 2, 3. And if I clean that all up, that's what I get, is 2x plus 6 from the tiles. This is how we look at it algebraically, without having to take out tiles every time we want to do this kind of math. This is saying I'm going to have 2 of those x's, and 2 times x is just 2x, and then 2 of those 3's. So 2 times 3 is just 6. Which is exactly the same first problem right here. When we're doing this, and I didn't say it on the last slide, almost every time we use the distributive property, I'm going to draw, and I'll probably even say it, they're going to look like rainbows. This 2 is going to get shared with the x, and it's going to get shared with the 3. So this is going to be 2x, there's my plus, and then 2 times 3 is 6. In the second example, the 4 is what's getting shared. So 4 times x would be 4x plus, and then 4 times 7 is going to be 28. And in the third example, notice now I've got this -7 that's going to distribute. I also have a plus 3 at the end. For right now, think about order of operations. Multiplying comes before adding. So I'm going to do my distribution, which is really a multiplication step. I'm going to distribute this, and then we'll worry about the plus 3 in a second. So -7 times x is going to be -7x. That subtraction worries me a little bit. I'm going to do a keep, change. Now I can see that I've got -7 times a -5, which is a positive 35. And I still had the plus 3. Now just think about what we've done with combining like terms. Those match. They're like terms. So I've got -7x plus 38. Okay, this last one I'm going to have a hard time because I can't quite get down to the bottom of my screen with how this looks. So I'm going to have to kind of write over on the side a little bit. This one also looks a little bit different because the -4 is the thing that's distributing. And it's not in front of the parentheses. That's how we typically see it. It does have to be in parentheses so it doesn't look like I'm subtracting 4. But this -4 is smushed right up next to the other set of parentheses, which means it's a multiplying. So when I do this, I'm going to have -4 times x is going to be a -4x. And the -4 times the y is going to be plus a -4y. And then this subtracting y at the end, again, I'm going to do plus a -1y. and these are like terms. Now, x's do come before y, so I'm going to keep that negative 4x first. Negative 4y and negative 1y would be a negative 5y. And remember, you could also write that as negative 4x minus 5y if you wanted to. This is very much what your homework is going to be looking like today. So when I distribute this, 2 times a negative 3m would be a negative 6m, plus 2 times 1 is just 2. Now, the first term has an m, the second one doesn't. That is totally simplified. There's nothing else I can do there. In number 2, I am distributing. The 3 would usually be here for what we're used to. We're used to seeing it in front of the parentheses, but it doesn't have to be there. That 3 is still going to be shared with both of these things. So I would have the 3 times the e, which would just be 3e. And then I'm going to leave that as a minus for a second. I know I kept saying I don't like subtraction, but let's leave it there for a second. 3f. If you changed it to add the opposite, it would look like that. Here are my next couple of problems. So again, some distribution and some things to, oops, too far, to combine like terms. So here in number 3, the negative 3 is distributing, and again, kind of tricky. So I'm going to change, I'm going to put a 1 in front of this m, I'm going to put a 1 in front of that n, and I'm going to do a keep, change, change. So negative 3 times m is going to be negative 3m. Negative 3 times a negative 1n is a positive 3n. And then I have this other n, and remember, anytime there's no number, I'm sneaking a 1 in there. These match. So I've got negative 3m. 3n plus 1n is going to be 4n. And for number 4, the negative 5 is distributing. I know that I've got this subtracting 3 over here. In fact, I'm even going to change that right now. Negative 5 times s is negative 5s. Not great for s's, I know. Plus negative 5 times 7 is going to be a negative 35. And I've got that adding a negative 3 at the end. And again, those match. So I've got a negative 5s plus a negative 38. Or it could just be minus 38. These last 2 problems are like as tricky as I can get, I think, at this point. 5x is the thing that's going to distribute. I'm going to do 5x times y. Okay, well, we haven't looked at any of those, but I'm hoping that you can see 5x times y is just going to be 5 times x times y. And again, let me leave that as a subtraction for a minute. 5x times z would just be 5xz. And they're not like terms. They don't match, so we're done. Number 6, this is the one that I'm saying is the trickiest because I don't see a number to distribute. It's not the 3. The 3 is not smushed up next to the parentheses. If I have a variable with no number in front of it, I could put a 1 there. I can do the same thing with parentheses. I can put a 1 right there. And then I'm going to say, oh, well, I don't like that subtraction. So I'm going to change that to a negative 1 that's distributing. So for now, that 3 stays. That addition stays. Negative 1 times 4x is going to be a negative 4x. And I'm going to change that, keep, change, change. Negative 1 times negative 5 is positive 5. Now, the things that match here are my constants. My first thing, though, should be this variable. Negative 4x goes first. Then I've got 3 plus 5 is plus 8. These last couple problems, and I think that we might even just skip the ones that are here at the end because they're very similar. You can see a little bit of a difference because they are starting to get a little bit longer. There's more stuff. So I'm going to change all of my subtraction. to start with, and then I'm going to distribute. So 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 7x is 35x. Plus negative 3x, oh, that's kind of a yucky one, plus a negative 2. Now, the things that match, and the x's go first, 35 and negative 3 is going to be a positive 32x. They're different signs this time. And 10 plus a negative 2 is positive 8. All right, last one. I'm going to take care of my subtraction first. This is really a negative 3 that's distributing. This is really a negative 2, and the a's can have 1s. So 4 times 1a is just 4a. Plus 4 times 3 is 12. Plus negative 3 times 1a is a negative 3a. Plus negative 3 times a negative 2 is positive 6. And now we combine like terms. So 4a and negative 3a. 4a plus a negative 3a would be positive 1a. And 12 plus 6 would be plus 18. Now, this one that's in front of the a is perfectly fine. You can absolutely leave that. Please don't take any extra time to rewrite stuff. However, do you understand that that one doesn't really need to be there? When I see a variable without a number, I'll sneak a 1 in front of it, but everybody knows that that 1 was there in the first place. Here, I don't even need that a. It could, or the 1. It could just be a plus 18 if I wanted to simplify that a little bit more. Today's homework is, again, from that little book that's going to be in Schoology, and I'll have the pages in your folder for today. So on pages 5 and 6, it's 1 through 31 on. A lot of distribution, a lot of combining like terms. When we get an assignment like this that's starting to seem a little bit longer, this is going to be 16 problems, they should go pretty quickly. However, if you know that you can look at 3 problems and they're all very similar and you can get those right by checking your answer key, I don't really need you to do every single problem. However, as soon as there's a different kind of a problem, you got to try it. You have to keep trying all the different kinds of problems. When you finish this and you check it with the answer key in Schoology, make sure that you do the learning check and let me know if you need any help. I'm always here to help you. Have a good day.